to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Pastor Halpin, are you doing our invocation today?
I am.
Would you like us to sit or stand?
I'd like to stay standing if you want.
I would.
That'd be great. Would you pray with me? Father, we thank you on this week that our country celebrates Thanksgiving in our homes and in our neighborhoods. We thank you for this town. We thank you for the men and women that make up this town. We thank you for those who serve it each and every day and the offices that are appointed to. Lord, we thank you for each and every employee that is part of the greater government here in Riverhead. Father, we ask your blessing upon this town and upon their families. We ask for your protection among each and every one of them. And God, we ask that you continue to guide and direct our leaders. We ask that you give them wisdom to see to what is need to be made, the decisions. And Father, most importantly, we ask that each and every one of us rely on your grace and your forgiveness for each and every day. And God, we pray for those that are sitting here tonight, may their words be sweet, and may their thoughts be of thanksgiving of each other. In your Son's name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor.
That was very nice, Pastor. Thank you.
North Shore Christian Church in Riverhead. Okay, John?
Okay. I'd like to make a motion that we approve the minutes, the town board minutes of November 7th, 2012, and the special town board minutes of November 15th, 2012. So moved.
And seconded.
Moved and seconded. Vote, please.
Giglio.
Abstain. I didn't have a chance to read the minutes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
The minutes are approved.
Okay, applications.
Under applications, we received an application from Competitive Events Group to do, and I don't know what this is, a duathlon? Run.
Try.
Is that right? No,
Yes,
that's what they
I
wrote.
think
Yeah.
it was
Is
a
that word?
triathlon. No, it's not.
They call it a duathlon / run at Shift Scout Reservation on September 14th, 2013. Under correspondence, the Riverhead Fire District sent a letter thanking Highway Superintendent Gia Woodson and the Town of Riverhead Highway Department with help in recovering a brush truck during Hurricane Sandy. Under reports, the tax receivers submitted their utility collection report for October, $744,570.12. The building department submitted their monthly report for October. That was $71,040.97. For Fire District information, Jamesport and Riverhead Fire District have submitted letters announcing their annual election, and those are both for December 11th, 2012. And that's it.
Any other town board reports?
No, we got the bonfire coming up on December 8th, but I'll announce that in more detail at the next meeting.
December 2nd, Lions Club is having their welcome Santa Parade on Main Street. It starts at 1 o'clock, Griffin and Court Street, and goes down to Riverhead Grill and then into the parking lot. So bring the kids. Santa Claus is going to be there. Mr. Santa's going to be there, and we're all going to have fun.
Mrs. Claus?
Mrs. Claus will be there. Thank you.
Okay, good. Anybody else? No? All right. We're going to reopen the public hearing from last board meeting, and this was a continuation of a public hearing from November 7th. Town of Riverhead freshwater inventory map for McGann Mercy High School, and we have folks from McGann Mercy. We'd like you to present that application if you would. At the podium. You're going to have to give us your name and affiliation. And
I'm Bob Terry. I'm here for Mercy High School.
Carl Semler, principal of McGann Mercy High School.
Okay, why don't you present what we're doing here, because we need to have that for the public record. This is the public hearing, public record part. It all has to be put on the record. I did incorporate the entire file in the last board meeting to the record, and there was a question. A lady lives across the street in a house, one of the old farmhouses with the new front porch, she said. She couldn't come today, but I said I would ask two questions. One of them has nothing to do with this. She wants to make sure the lights are not on all the time on the ball fields, shining on her house. So I've said that. And the other one is she wants to make sure, and I don't know how there's going to be assurances that doing this isn't going to cause increased flooding to her basement. So with that in mind, if you want to present what we're doing, that would be great.
Okay. I was
You
under
can lift that, Bob, if you
Yeah.
need to.
I was under the understanding that we were answering those two questions tonight. I thought everything else was already in the record, but do you want me to go through the
You got to go
entire
through the
project?
application for the public record, yes.
Okay.
This is what we discussed at work session wasn't the public record. This is the public record.
Okay. A description of the project?
I would start there. And
Okay, sure. Essentially, what we're doing is we're taking the wetland that is to the west of the tennis courts on the Mercy property and expanding it by essentially 3 times the amount we're going to give up on the east side of the tennis courts. There's a portion of wetland that's actually dry, but it's a wetland on the corner of Ostrander and Middle that once we're done with the first phase to the west, we're going to fill that portion in. In order to get the approval for that, we needed to demonstrate to the DEC that we were going to replace at least 3 times the amount lost. And that was in fact demonstrated and granted a permit. In addition to that, the water quality and the quality of the wetland that's presently on the property has degraded greatly because of the lack of depth of water. It wouldn't sustain life through the entire summer. And the invasive plant species all around the ponds. There's mostly poison ivy and knotweed around both ponds. The intention and the approval of this project would include removal of all the invasive species and replacement with over, I think it's 11,000 new native plantings. Some of them are wetland plants and some are like a common eastern red cedar. Anything from a full tree to a wetland plug. The entire area is going to be made into a functioning wetland that serves a much greater purpose than the one that's there presently. In addition to that portion of the work, we offered to bring in some of the water off of Middle Road that has been a problem in the past. When we first started doing this, it was with the prior highway superintendent, and then we've since moved on to Geo, and he fully supports the project because he really needs all the help he can get over there to get the water off the road. So we offered in a regulated fashion to bring in some of the storm water off that road. As a wetland functions, we will bring it in into what's called a forebay, which is basically a deeper pocket at the beginning of the project where the heavier sediments, the larger grain size particles of sand would settle out, and then the water would pass from there. That would be like a collecting point for, say, road sand and other sediments that might come down Roanoke Avenue off the farm fields. The next trip or step along the journey for the water coming into our wetland is to pass into a small stream that runs along Middle Road. As it passes through that stream, it's going to pass over different types of wetland plants that were specifically chosen because of their noted ability to absorb different pollutants, different targeted pollutants. In a high flow event, we also have added capacity to that pond so that we could take in more water than we currently handle now. The extent that we can do that, we have to regulate with weir boards. The weir boards are to control the amount of water that comes in and how quickly it leaves the site. It's really a very simple thing. You have weir boards down on Grand Jubel, along the Peconic River in many places. They're operated by Jim. Diven, yes. I don't want to say that they're simple to operate. He does a great job with it, but it's a simple mechanism that works very well. And we can very quickly control the water level if for some reason an completely unexpected turn of event should come where you would be flooded. We could probably take more, or if someone decided that they thought that there was a problem with what we were doing, we could turn it off. If for some reason you decided at some point you didn't want us to take your water, can't imagine why, but if you did, we would just have to raise the weir boards, and the pond would function as it, as it's designed without it. Once it gets through the stream, it passes into the main body of the pond, where the fine sediments would fall out of suspension. At that point, the water then passes over another set of weir boards and drops into a manhole and goes back out into your drainage system on Middle Road. Now, just for your knowledge, between the woman's property and us is a drainage system that's the town owns. It runs down Middle Road. They're not sealed pipes. That's perforated pipe under that road. So every time it rains, you don't just put water in those pipes, you put water in the ground. So I don't really see how anything we're doing would have any impact on her.
Actually, it would be less if you took some of the water out of those pipes.
That's right. If anything, I would think we would help.
Well, George Woodson's here. We might ask him a question. This is about the McGann Mercy wetlands. I don't know, George, if you are following any of this, but we might ask you that question about the perforated pipes. If you can answer it, I don't know if you can. Yeah, if you could.
I believe that the pipe is perforated. It also runs all the way down past, I believe, just across from where Timothy Hill has their little storage hut. And then it's a bubble out system that bubbles out to where the old duck pond used to be.
So this Mercy project, it's something you generally support because it's able to take some of our water. Is that accurate?
Well, not only that, I like the idea of the filtration system that's going to be imposed with it. And with the amount of water we get until we can do some other things on Roanoke, it'll help, divide the water maybe in half and take some of that water and help us. It'll help us out with the drainage system we already have on Middle Road, and it'll also help out take a little bit more water onto their property.
All right, thanks. I appreciate it, George.
To continue with the description of the project, the pond that we intend to pond or recharge basin that we're looking to eliminate is in fact the one that's closer to Mrs.
You don't have to say her name.
Okay.
She's not here.
Yep.
But I did notice that her house is directly across the street from.
Right, the one that we're looking to fill in. So in fact, the larger body of water that we're creating is going to be further from her house than the current one that's there now that I can't imagine has ever caused her any problem. So with that said, the other portion of the project that I think is really worth noting is that we intend to use this project as an educational facility that will be open to other schools eventually. We've teamed with universities, Fordham University and Malloy College, to help us develop curriculum to teach our East End community, starting with our own on campus, about the function and value of wetlands. In the long run, what we would like to see is this to become a great field trip destination for students all over the county to come out and really learn about what a wetland looks like, how it functions. One of the main ways towns identify a wetland, and one of the first things you start with, is plant identification. That's usually the first thing that someone says, wait a minute, that's a wetland plant. It doesn't necessarily mean it's a wetland because it's a wetland plant, because they'll sometimes grow upland, but that's the first thing that should raise your consciousness that maybe there is a wetland here. Our intention is for our students and other visiting students to learn how to identify wetland plants so that we can protect these assets, which is really what they are, not just on our property, but in their own communities, wherever they are. These wetlands are, these plants are really unique in that they have the natural ability to clean up pollution, and we need to, educate people about that. And I think that there's as much value to that as the actual drainage function of this project.
Sounds like a win-win to me, so. Not sure what I've, I'm trying to put a whole lot into a short time. Do you have other? Well, we took the whole file with your maps and everything and incorporated it into the record, so, we're familiar with that. I don't know, does the board have any questions?
I just have one
before I
question.
open it up?
Speaking to the same lady that Supervisor references, and also some people on Roanoke Avenue who constantly used to pump out their basements because they get groundwater.
Mm-hmm.
Now, she stated that this pond that we're filling in, I always thought it was a drainage pond, and I guess it's not. It's fed by springs underground. So she's afraid.
Well, the springs aren't there now because you could walk across there right now. It's dry today.
Yeah, but she's afraid that if you fill it in and if the springs put more water there, instead of coming up, it'll disperse to her yard, and the underground water will come up more. That's where she.
All right. Well,
So I don't know if it's fed by springs or.
It's more surface water, and none of it comes off your roads. It's really just from our property now, and we're going to direct it from that spot to the bigger wetland, which is away from her property.
Okay.
Now, it's not like we're installing, a slurry wall or a cutoff wall at the property line that's going to. I mean, we do that sometimes as a contractor to cut off water. We're not changing or stopping the water from flowing through Mercy in a subsurface way. That will continue. Now, the study of what happens underground is enormously expensive for that watershed, because that watershed goes above Reeves Avenue. I mean, it's way beyond what we as a small school trying to handle our own issues were able to take on. So that's why I leave open the idea of the weir boards. If there ever is some unintended consequence of this, we have a way to handle it pretty easily. It's pretty, I mean, we've had quite a few engineers look at this, including your town engineer, Ken Testa. And everybody seems to really support it and not see where it's going to cause an unintended consequence to the drainage issues for someone else in the.
Okay, thank you. I said the last public hearing but I thought this was a win-win for the town. But I just wanted to ask that question because numerous people in that area have asked me this question, and I did not have the answer, so
Okay.
I'd rather ask a professional, you know, for that answer.
I just have one
Thank you.
question.
Sure.
I realize that the duck line to the east side of Ostrander is much lower, so that would probably be affected by spring water more than that.
Right. Groundwater is
Right,
really
groundwater
more.
rising.
Yeah.
Do you know history? Do you know where that depression came from? Is that something that was man-created years ago during the erection of the school, or is it something that has always existed? Do we know?
I'm not sure. I'm told that it was man-made, but when, I don't know. I couldn't find the records on it. We couldn't find any pipes going into it. We couldn't, you know, I don't know. It's more of a seasonal water body. You know, there's certain times of the year where there's some water in it and other times when there isn't. So,
I think it's a
I
non-issue.
don't know.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Right, thanks.
The question that I have for you is when you excavate for the new drainage system that you're proposing,
Right.
and you're going to, in reading the DEC permit, it appears that you're going to be stockpiling on the property and you'll be filling in the old wetlands with the material that you take out of the new drainage area.
Right.
Are you planning to scour the existing wetland so that it drains properly and fill it with material that will drain so that it would be more effective than what you have there now?
You're the first person who's asked that, but absolutely, yes. Yeah,
Okay.
that's very important to do. And as we fill it, it'll be compaction tested and it'll be tested to make sure that it drains right. If it turns out, and that's a contingency we have in our budget, if it turns out that some of that material is not appropriate to put over there, it's going to have to go. And we have several sources of clean sand and gravel to put in there.
And
So-
will that material be tested as per the DEC permit for contaminants and pollution?
Oh, yeah, it'll have to be.
Okay.
Yeah,
Very good.
that's required.
Thank
Sure.
you.
How deep is the excavation? I mean, how deep you going down? Just
Well, right now, the surf, we're probably going to go in the deepest part, maybe 5 to 6 feet deeper. The data we have right now is a few years old. We'll have current data, but the problem with ponds is if they're not deep enough in some spot in the pond, it gets too warm and it won't sustain life. It just gets too warm and you see that green slime go across them and everything dies. So you need some deeper pockets in the pond to keep the water a little cooler, and you get a convection type movement of the water when you have it deep enough.
All right, does anybody else wish to be heard on this? Not seeing anybody. I'm going to close out the public hearing. Thank you very much. Appreciate you guys coming in today. Thank you.
Thank you.
7:05 having arrived, we're going to open the second public hearing. And this is, Chris, is this? This is a public hearing inviting residents to express citizen views on local housing and community development needs to meet with the federal block grants. Chris, if you want to give us more information on that, that would be great.
Okay.
Chris, would you introduce yourself? I'm having a new transcription, it's due the minute, so she won't know who the people are speaking.
Sure. My name is Chris Kempner, and I'm the director of the Community Development Department that administers the federal HUD Community Development Block Grant Program, which is part of the Suffolk County Consortium. So our funds are applied for as a consortium through the county, and we allocate them following federal rules, which include a public hearing to get public input on how we use these funds. So this public hearing is to solicit comments and input as to our 2013 CDBG application under the Suffolk County Consortium allocation. The Town of Riverhead 2013 Community Development Block Grant funds are expected to total approximately $132,852. and has in the past included allocations for the home improvement program, program administration, public services, public facilities, and public infrastructure projects. Public service projects may not exceed $20,000 in total, which is about 15% of the total grant, and may not be for less than $5,000 individually. In the past, we've assisted soup kitchens, homeless outreach, and also anti-drug programs. We provide money to services that benefit at least 51% low to moderate income persons, which is a requirement of the grant. For public service project facilities, projects must be located in low to moderate income areas or serve special populations such as seniors. The Community Development Department in the past has allocated money to pedestrian projects, infrastructure improvement projects, and some suggested potential grant allocations for the upcoming year public facility projects would be to the Town of Riverhead Home Improvement Project, which we tend to fund annually through this program. Potentially $70,000 of this funding would go towards that, and we anticipate leveraging that with a grant from the Affordable Housing Corporation, which traditionally has funded 60% of our home improvement program, with 40% coming from the CDBG funds. So we would look at a total of about $180,000 if we use 70 for the home improvement. And we were also looking at perhaps pedestrian improvement program money and allocating some funding for administration funds, which would be limited to approximately 10% of the total Town of Riverhead allocation, and that would be about $13,000. Final determinations must be approved at the December 4th meeting, and all project descriptions will be submitted to the Suffolk County Development Office at that time. If you had any additional questions, I'd be happy to answer those. Most likely people from the audiences would stand up and ask for their cause.
All right, with that being said, if the board doesn't have questions, we'll open it up. No, we'll open it up to the community. Does anybody wish to be heard?
Hello, Regina Morris, as you know. I had gotten money through community development. I'm just wondering if you're still working on manufactured homes.
Yes, I believe so. That hasn't changed.
Because I was at your website to download an application for home improvements, and as far as mobile homes go, it's not working.
We could take a look at that. The public hearing's for the grant itself, but if there's a problem with the application, Chris, do we do the grant applications online? Because that's something I wouldn't be part of this public hearing, I don't think.
Yeah, the applications for somebody who wants to partake in the program is online, and we also have it in hard copy and mail it out to you.
Okay, I mean, that's not the subject of this hearing, but we'd be happy to give you an application, and we'll look into it to make sure it works online.
Well, I just want to know that if you do get funding through this program, is there any protection for the homeowner when there's violations of contract, breach of contract, things not done to code? What type of protection?
Of course there are, but that's not something that's not, again, the subject of this public hearing. You know, we have to follow town codes, we have to follow New York State building codes. There's contract law, of course there are, but again, that's not really the subject of this hearing.
Right, but I just want to know if someone puts in an application and there is violations.
There's absolutely, things have to be built to the New York State building code and the town code. That's your protections.
And if they're not,
I'm not, Ms. Morris, that's not the subject of this hearing. Right. We're not going to get into that this evening.
Well, I wish I knew these things before being eligible for a grant. Because now I'm in a position where I had gotten a grant and the contractor was not certified to work on my home.
I really want to keep you focused on the block grants, the thing Ms. Kempner, the description Ms. Kempner provided for you. I really don't want to get into individual issues. You've come here and spoken before. We'd be very happy to work with you, but that's not, your individual complaint is not necessarily the subject of this hearing.
Well, yes, because there's no protection for anybody that gets a grant for
Well,
home
when you're finished
improvements.
up, I will have Ms. Kempner respond to that aspect.
Well, why can't I just find out now and let
Oh.
everybody know exactly what's
As
going
soon
on
as
with
she
community
will,
development?
as soon as you're done with your comments, I will have her answer, and then I'll bring somebody else up. So if that's if that's the end of your comments, I'll have her come up and answer that as far
Well-
as protections.
I'd also like to know, in community development, one of the people that you had gotten rid of out of the 11 regarding the budget, you're looking to replace 2 jobs, correct? I believe I had read that on the Riverhead local website.
That remains to be seen.
Okay, well, anyway, I was just wondering, you had let go of Liz. She was the grant technician, or I'm not quite sure
You're
of.
getting astray of this public hearing.
There's a lot, this is for community block grants, and it's a lot, these community block grants are for a lot more than just the home improvement program. There's soup kitchens, there's outreach programs, there's a lot of people that apply for different aspects of this particular block grant.
Right.
So, and there's a lot of people in the audience now that would like to be heard as far as what they could apply these applications to. So, I think your comments about what happened to you individually is
No.
probably best off at the end of the meeting, under
No,
comments.
just so everybody is protected and they know what they're getting into when they become involved with CDA.
I don't think we can answer that question.
Right.
Well, you're
That's
the
a,
board members,
that's a,
you belong
we,
to it.
as long as it's done to state building codes, to the Riverhead Building Code, you should be protected, and you should go and seek legal counsel if you don't think that it was done to those specifications, and bring it to the town that way. That's the only thing. We cannot make a decision here on your, situation as far as concerned is the workmanship, at your, home.
I'm talking about the way it's run, not my own personal experience and what has gone on.
Well, the grants help 99.9% of the applicants. I don't know what happened to you. If it was wrong, then it should be remedied, but the way to remedy that is not through this town board right now, because we cannot make that decision. We are not builders, we cannot inspect and see if it was done to the building code. You would have to, do that yourself and present it to the building department or, our council.
I have made several calls to the code enforcer, Mr. McAbee.
Ms. Morris,
She shouldn't have
wrap it up. You are now really afar of what the subject and purpose of this hearing is. So if you'd wrap it up with your final comments, that would be really wonderful.
Well, I just feel that anybody that applies for assistance, especially through AHC too, that they need some type of protection.
Okay, we
And I'm
we hear
surprised
that comment.
I'm
Thank you.
surprised that you got another grant through AHC because you were in violation of the RFP.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Is there anything else you'd like to ask us?
That new gentleman in community development, did he replace Liz?
No, he did not, and,
Is there a new
but
gentleman?
thank you. No, it's Frank, he just didn't sit there
Oh,
before.
right.
I will have Chris answer that other question, and thank you for your comments.
Yeah, I'm sure, but I know you got a lot to hide and it's gonna come out.
Oh,
I
Thank you.
made 2 calls to Mr. Wooten and 2 calls to Ms. Gigolo and also to, the guy that I just mentioned, the code enforcement officer. Nobody's returned my calls. Can't imagine why.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Ms. Kempner, if you wanted to respond to the
I
protection
just
issue.
wanted to go back to the broad mission of the program. It does include the home improvement program, but as Councilman Wooten mentioned, we do infrastructure projects such as Pulaski Street sidewalks and replacement of lighting to put in more energy efficient lighting and enhance infrastructure. So just not to lose sight of the broad mission of the CDBG program, which is the subject of the hearing. The mechanics of the home improvement program are such that an application is made to the town to see if an individual is eligible, And because we have such an overwhelming demand for the program right now, we tend to look for active leaks or something that's a health and safety issue. And the way the program works is we look at those particular instances of an individual home, and we scope it with our home improvement inspector, and we put it out to bid. And the program really works as an agreement between our contractors that have been vetted through the program and the individual homeowner. So it's really an agreement that's much like any contractor relationship. So what we first do, if there's any issues, is we ask the homeowner to deal with the contractor individually, and much as you would with any home improvement job. So with statistics, there are some projects that won't be absolutely the first time to the homeowner's 100% satisfaction, and we encourage the contractor to go back. I don't want to speak about any individual topic, but we have full support from AHC, HUD, Suffolk County, and even some of these issues that were being discussed at the podium have gone to Suffolk County Consumer Affairs. So I just want to make the record clear that there's nothing outstanding, and we've been working to resolve any issue that any homeowner has with any contractor.
Good. Thank you. You're doing a great job. Does anybody else wish to be heard on this? I saw some people before. Yes. Hello, Ms. Kokoza.
Hi, I'm Felicia Skakoza from Riverhead Community Awareness Program. CAP, Riverhead Community Awareness Program, is once again applying for Community Development Block Grant funds to help support our prevention and counseling programs, specifically at Roanoke Avenue Elementary School. We provide a full-time social worker that splits her time between Roanoke Avenue School and Phillips Avenue School. The Southampton Town Community Development Funds help support her position at Phillips Avenue Elementary School, and the Riverhead Community Development Funds help support her position at Roanoke Avenue School. As I've said before, every dollar that's invested in prevention has a return of between $2 and $20. So at a very minimum, you're doubling your investment when you invest in drug and alcohol prevention programs. Specifically in Roanoke Avenue School, there's a higher level of poverty and risk factors than in the rest of the Riverhead School District. 67% of the students receive free or reduced lunch, and 68% belong to a minority group. 60% of the students, actually 59%, are classified as economically disadvantaged, compared to 42% for the rest of the district. In 2011, the Roanoke Avenue School saw a 10% increase in students, and administrators reported that at least 90% of those families were classified as low income. Traditionally, monies utilized through this grant have been used for the lowest income students in the district. So we appreciate your support in the past, and we're once again applying for these funds. Thank you.
Thank you. You guys are doing a great job. Does anybody else wish to be heard? Yes.
Good evening. I'm Zona Stroy. I'm with Open Arms Care Center, and I'm also representing Shirley Coverdale for Project CARE. First, I'd like to thank you for the support we've gotten from the town board before, because it's allowed us to continue to do the programs for feeding the hungry in the community. So we're asking again for your support. Not only for the Open Arms Food Pantry, but for Project CARE, which stands for Community Access to Riverhead eHealth. Project CARE is a community health initiative that's a collaboration of First Baptist Church, the Peconic Bay Medical Center, and the Federation of Organizations. It's been in place since January of 2006, and has been providing free health screenings to homebound seniors, food pantry and soup kitchen clients, and seniors who frequent the Riverhead Town Nutrition Center. The food pantry we operate at First Baptist Church for about 20 years in donated space on the lower level of the church. This program has been a lifeline for many people in the community who otherwise might go hungry. We provide enough food for 3 meals a day for each person in the household for 3 days. So every pantry client at present comes in once a month, or at least those who have a way to get there, and the pantry gives them bags of food, and most of them go to other pantries also, and that sustains them until the next month when they come back again. The pantry serves 50 or 60 households each month, and so far this year we've provided better than 8,400 meals up through September.
How many?
The need
How
I'm
many?
sorry,
How many?
8,400, and that's meals at 3 meals a day for each person in the household for 3 days. The need is, as you probably know, bigger each year in our community. People struggle to pay rent and utilities and pay for child care, and the things that they cut out or cut back on are food and health care. We see an increasing number of people each year, and this year has been especially devastating on some families with the hurricane and with people out of jobs and all sorts of things. So Project CARE tries to at least give people an advance warning when they're going to have some serious health issues and help them figure out how to solve them before they're devastated by them. Of course, we feed people because we want families to at least be able to have minimum nutrition in the household, whether they can pay for it or not. The package that I left up at Diane's desk has some additional information, but the funds that we are asking for, we simply ask for buying food, supplies, and diabetic supplies and paper for Project CARE. All our volunteers, all our staff is volunteers, and so we don't have any expenses other than food and supplies. So we thank you for your continued support, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you.
No, I think that covers it. Thank you very much. We're very familiar with what you guys do, and you're doing God's work there. Thank you.
Thanks.
Does anybody else wish to be heard tonight? Yes? Yeah.
Good evening. My name is Dwayne Wagner. I'm a current board member of Maureen's Haven, and I've just handed up just some statistics for you regarding our last year's season. I chaired the board the last prior 2 years, and I'm currently a board member of Maureen's Haven. For those that aren't familiar with Maureen's Haven, we're going into the 10th season of the Maureen's Haven overnight program. The mission of Maureen's Haven is to empower and protect the East End's homeless. And the services are delivered in a unique way in that there's a lot of compassion and, quite frankly, love in the delivery of the services as distinguished from other sheltering programs. Maureen's Haven is comprised of 32 houses of worship from the town of Riverhead through Montauk. We just recently added a house of worship in Montauk. So there's 32 houses of worship. 1,500 volunteers are raised among those 32 houses of worship. And the basic program is we are located in Riverhead. The last 2 years we had a ribbon cutting. Mr. Walter was nice enough to attend that. We have a day center.
The whole board went to that, actually.
Was the whole board there?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Thank you. The day center is now at 28 Lincoln, and that actually has helped alleviate pressure that previously existed in screening at the train station. During the day, approximately 35 individuals that come out of the individual house of worship overnight come to the day center, so they're there, out of the cold. They're given job placement services, computer training, and other enhanced services just to help them basically break out and become employed citizens. And that's the goal of the day center. So and obviously, the need every year increases with these recent turn of events with weather. To give you an idea, last year, and it's in the handout that you have, we operate 7 nights a week, and the average amount of homeless individuals that were brought into 1 or 2 houses of worship that were on for that evening was 50 individuals per night from November 1 through April 1, with a high of 82. So I think a lot of people on the East End don't really realize that there's that many homeless individuals here, from Riverhead to Montauk. But just our organization handles on average 50 individuals a night. So needless to say that it's a broad base that we try to assemble funds in, and we appreciate the fact that Riverhead has participated in the past, and thank you for that. And respectfully make an application to be part of your community grant program. The funds specifically will be used in the day center that's located in Riverhead. And if you have any questions, obviously I'll be happy to answer them.
No, I will make one comment. We're constrained because I think we only have 20,000. Is that correct, Chris? They have to be. We're trying for 25, which we did last year. I think you guys got cut out of that last year. And I know several people have asked for $10,000, but I think we typically give $5,000 because it's a minimum of $5,000. And we're going to do the same thing and hope that we can squeeze out $25,000, and we'll do what we can. But we're in a tough spot because of the way they allocate this in $5,000 blocks. But
Right.
we're going to, and I don't mean to say it to you. I'm just saying it to everybody. There could be one that gets cut again out of the 5 we typically do, because we used to do you guys, and you guys got cut.
Right.
And I think that the resolution that we're untabling and amending, Chris, is for this year. That's the one that you guys didn't get funded under, the 2012 one. So if you see that, that's for this year, not for the year that we're in the public hearing for.
Right, understood, thank you.
All right, thank you.
I have one question and one comment. I think there's more homeless people than you stated. That's the ones you help, but I think there's more homeless people in the town of Riverhead and on the East End than what has been stated. I think you guys do a great job.
Thank you.
Now, are you gonna still pick up at the railroad station?
No,
Or is it everything's going to the day center?
everything in Riverhead the screening is done at the day center. So that congestion has been eliminated with the opening of the day center.
At the railroad station?
Yes.
Okay, and you're dropping back off up there. Okay, that was my only comment. I just didn't know where you were picking the people up now. I
Right.
know they used to line up at the railroad station.
Right, so that we addressed that with the opening of the day center.
Okay,
Yeah, that
thank
was
you.
a huge, thank you.
Yeah.
All right, thank you,
Thank you.
Mr. Wagner. Does anybody else wish to be heard tonight on this?
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm Judy Barth, for those of you that don't know me, and I'm here on behalf of Bread and More. Bread and More is the soup and dinner kitchen that operates out of the First Congregational Church in Riverhead. We've been serving meals for over 20 years there. We serve 3 nights a week, and in the course of a year we serve probably close to between 15 and 20,000 meals in that year's time. It's $2, roughly $2 per meal, and over the past few years, one by one, all of our funding is being cut. Graciously, you've given us funding for since I've been asking for the last 3 years, and it's been more years than I'm aware of. I think that you've been helping us out. So without that funding, it makes it a struggle to get through the year. I've been doing this for, I think, 17 years now, and it's really is miraculous what happens when those that come in, they share a meal, they share a nutritious meal, and then they have a safe haven for at least that hour that they're there. So once again, I'm asking for your help and support for this. We cannot operate unless we have help such as that the town gives us. We are totally a non-for-profit, and we are run solely on volunteers. And that's it, and I would sure appreciate your help.
Thank you,
Is there
Ms.
any
Barr.
questions or anything?
Could I, just one question.
Sure.
The $2 a meal, is that the cost to you?
That's the
The
cost to us, yes.
For serving that meal?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Between paper goods and what we have to purchase, we have to go under the guidelines of the health department. When we cook food, when we package food, if we do package it for anyone to take home, it all has to be met with health department requirements. Along with our cooks are also health department certified.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Does anybody else wish to be heard? Okay, I'll close the public comment portion. Chris, are we under a time constraint? Can I leave it open for written comment, or we are under a time constraint, aren't we?
I think we can open to December 4th for written comment, and then you can submit to the town immediately.
Okay, so you want me to leave it open until December 4th for written comment?
Till November 30th, and then we would,
Okay, so we'll leave it open then till November 30th for written comment. That would be fine, and then
Boards will be on the 4th.
we will adopt something on November 4th. Thank you very much, everybody, for coming out. We have one more public hearing, and this is a public hearing scheduled for 7:10. 7:10 having arrived and left, being 7 almost 55. This is a consideration of the incorporation of private roads into the town of Riverhead's highway system, Bating Hollow area, Northgate Circle, and Gilles Way. I believe, Gio, are you going to open this meeting or talk to us about these two roads? Yeah, that would be great. The town supervisor is going to make some preliminary comments on Gio.
Town attorney.
Town, I'm sorry.
Town
Did I call you?
Call the town supervisor.
Don't do that to me. Yeah, this,
Freudian slip.
before the.
Hey, you got me here.
Before the highway superintendent approaches, this is the matters at Bating Hollow subdivision. The subdivision was approved with the idea that all the roads would become part of the town highway public system, as far as I know, and I believe that to be the case. What occurred was there was, I guess, some issues towards the end of the project involving the developer. The roadway systems were not originally dedicated to the town as they were intended to be. There was some work done after the fact to get all the roads into the town highway system, except that somehow Northgate Circle and Gilles Way got overlooked. It's probably been more than 10 years where the residents have been, making some inquiries to the town. The road specs, I believe, meet the highway superintendent's specifications, and they're acceptable, and I'm sure we hear from him in that respect. And the idea is to bring them into our highway system as they were originally intended to do. So that's the reason we're having the public hearing.
George, these highways, you've been maintaining them for a period of 10 years or more?
We have been maintaining these roads
Would
for.
you just state your name for transcription purposes? I'm sorry.
Sure. George Woodson, Highway Superintendent,
Thank you.
Town of Riverhead. We have been maintaining these roads since we took over the rest of the development. I'm not sure the year that development was built, but we have been plowing them and maintaining them for at least 10 years or more. So, and they seem to be up to par.
And it's your desire to take them into the road inventory by highways by use, where you're maintaining them and working on them and plowing them for 10 years or more?
Yes, we've been, actually went up and inspected the area, and actually we did work on the roads this year, just like we did in the rest of the development, so they are up to par at this time.
Okay. Thank you, Superintendent Woodson. Does anybody else wish to be heard on this? All right, not seeing anybody, what we'll do is we'll close out the public comment portion and leave it open for written comment again until November 30th. All right, that is the end of the public hearings. Comments on resolutions will be next.
Sal Mastropolo, Calverton.
Welcome back, Sal.
Thanks.
Where were you? Vacation, hunting?
No, it's the Northeaster.
Oh, what's the matter? A little wind got you down?
887. In the attachment to 887 in the letter from H2M, the first bullet under the base, it says, based on our reevaluation and assuming the current bidding environment remains the same, we have determined that the hangar pump station construction cost may be reduced by approximately $70,000 by instituting the following. And the first bullet says, to eliminate contractor markup, the town should purchase select required mechanical and electrical equipment off the Suffolk County purchasing contract. I would think that that's standard operating procedure, and we should be doing that all the time, not just when the bid comes in higher than the budget, and then we cut the bid down.
You would be accurate.
Well, then why aren't we doing it?
We are now, and I don't see Michael Reichel here. He should have been here since
I mean,
this resolution.
we're paying H2M
Tara,
as
can you just make a
consultants.
note of that, Ms. McLaughlin? Can you make a note that Michael Reichel, department heads are supposed to come to town board meetings, so we'll just make a note that he has to come to the meetings. You would be accurate in that assessment, and in the future, I and the board will be asking that question. It's not something that I think we were all that familiar with.
Well, H2M should be put on notice too, because they're the consultants and they're providing the bid stuff. Okay, we should make it very clear that all future bids we buy under the contract, and we don't allow the contractor to make markup on it, which in turn gives H2M more money because they're getting a percentage of the total project.
You would be
So
accurate.
you got the fox watching the chicken coop.
Yes.
Thank you. 888. I wasn't going to comment on this until I heard the public hearing that just closed with Geo talking about those streets. You're now extending this bid for road and drainage improvements to 10 years from the original start of construction. I guess the question I have is, the roads that they're talking about in this development, do we take those roads over already? Are they part of our town road system? Or are they still private and we're not doing any maintenance on them?
No, the end of Birchwood is not part of the road system. That's why the bond is still in here, I believe.
So we're not plowing it?
No. In fact, last 2 years, there's people that live on this road, and I do believe we had complaints
Complaints about what?
that they weren't being plowed.
Well, they shouldn't be plowed by the town, right?
Correct.
Okay. All right, that's it. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else wish to be heard on resolutions?
Matt Hadoff.
How you doing, Mr. Hadoff?
Good. Resolution 872. It's 103,000 from fund balance back into the personnel office. That's to write Meg back into the budget? Is that correct?
That's a resolution.
Yes, that's a resolution states, yes. The personnel director back.
What about writing back some union members into the budget? I mean, we took a hit of 13 not too long ago. I got one position that's not being funded. I got another one that's been taken out. And I just find it amazing, and nobody wants to see anybody lose a job. But I find it amazing that we can pull resolutions and money out of fund balance, and we can fund management positions, people that don't live in Riverhead, that don't pay taxes to Riverhead, that don't vote in Riverhead. We can write them back into the budget, but we can't write back a union member. We took 13 2 years ago. We're taking another 2 now. And you know what? Jody, you sat down this week with Jack Weary and you told him you were writing him out of the budget too.
Matt,
That's absolutely pathetic. And of all of them, you're the one that sits there all the time and says, that person doesn't live in Riverhead, I vote no, we're not hiring him.
Matt,
And
that would be-
now you're pulling the money
Okay,
out
you're done.
and taking our tax dollars, and you're funding a position, and that person doesn't even live in Riverhead. Why don't you do the right thing and fund some of these union jobs? We took a hit already for 13, another 2 now. It's pathetic. I would urge the board to vote no on these. Let the supervisor's budget ride. You know what? I lose less people that way.
Well, Matt,
I lose less members that way.
we're putting Youth Bureau Director back in for July 1st. That's in the
No,
budget.
why don't you put Youth Bureau back in for January 1 and put the Personnel Office
You
back
just
in for
said the
July
supervisor's
1st?
budget
Why don't we try that
eliminated
for
the
6
youth-
months?
Youth Director completely.
Why don't we try that for
That's
6
the
months?
truth.
Matt, I sat down with you earlier this week and I explained to you that the entire board decided to eliminate this part-time position with the exception of Councilman Wooten, who wasn't in the meeting.
No.
Because I am the liaison to the building department. They asked Councilman Gabrielson and myself to speak to Mr. Weary and let him know
No,
that
Jody.
that position was being eliminated. It
You
was a
didn't
board
say a word to
decision.
me until I approached you, and I didn't approach you until after I was approached by people from the building department.
Well,
So
you're
let's make
saying-
sure we got it right,
You're saying that
because
I cut
you're
him out
doing
of the
all
budget.
of this back
You
door.
have a microphone there, you don't have to scream.
You're saying that I cut him out of the budget. There were
You
4
did.
members of the board that made the decision because they felt that it would be prudent to have a full-time chief building inspector, senior building inspector, with all the commercial development that's going on out there, and the need for a full-time commercial building inspector rather than a part-time commercial building inspector.
And
So
under-
it was a 4-person decision on this board, and myself as liaison with Councilman Gabrielson were asked to speak to the employee, which we did. So we spoke to the employee.
Under that 6-month agreement to extend Sharon, the original agreement was to promote one of the 2 building inspectors that you have. It wasn't to hire somebody else and lay someone else
Well,
off.
that's what we're hoping to do, is
That's-
promote
no,
one
you-
of the building inspectors
You're
that
not
we
offering to
have.
do that. You're
And
offering to
also-
lay off another part-timer, another building inspector,
Matt.
someone else covered under our contract.
Matt, these are 2 retired employees one is of the town of Riverhead, one is of, a different job that are making $30,000 a year from the town. We were asked to speak to the employee, we did.
Jody,
And as far as the employee that you're saying that doesn't live in the town of Riverhead, there are a lot of people that started employment when they lived in the town of Riverhead. We don't fire them when they move away.
I'm not asking you to fire anybody. As a matter of fact, I believe the first thing I said is nobody wants to see anybody lose their job. Let me make that clear. If you didn't hear me, I'll say it again. I don't want to see anybody lose their job. No one. And the sad thing is, there's 16,000 tax bills that go out. You're talking about $100,000. You know what? $6 per tax bill, you wouldn't have to lay anybody off. That's pathetic. I'd like to see you do the responsible thing by the taxpayers of this town. That's what I'd like to see you do. I would urge the board to vote no on this one, vote no on 873. Let the supervisor's budget go through. I'm only losing 2 spots then. It's that much less I got to fight about. Oh, by the way, Jack's right there. Just so you know, that's the guy you're firing.
Actually,
Jack, why don't you stand up?
Actually, the decision was to end the employment as of December 31st, and we asked him to stay through April because there is a great need for it, and we do not have anybody to fill the position, and we want to make sure that the service is being provided. So, and if you read the budget, I believe his salary is still in there. It was Sharon's, and Sharon's is also. So anything can happen. We could say April 30th. We're not done with Hurricane Sandy, and we still need a residential inspector to fill in and do these inspections. We're trying to do it responsibly. It's not easy. We're cutting back everywhere we can, and it was a board decision to do so.
Doing the responsible thing is to put the taxpayers first. That's the responsible
That's why
thing.
we're
No,
leaving
you're
this
not.
position till
You're not.
through the
What
end of
you're
April.
doing is you're eliminating a taxpayer, someone who votes in Riverhead. That's the guy you're letting go. It's pathetic, Jody. It really is.
It was a 4-person
You-
board decision with 1 absent.
Jody, I don't care
Why are you
who
directing
voted.
this at me, Matt?
Because you're the one that sat down with him.
Because
You're
I was
you're the
asked to.
liaison, right?
I was asked by the
You're the
supervisor
one.
to
You're
sit
the
down
one
with
that
him.
sat down with him.
I was asked
The
by
supervisor's
supervisor to
budget
sit
doesn't
down
cut
with
him out.
You gonna let her speak, or are you gonna keep interrupting her?
No, the supervisor's budget doesn't cut her out.
Anything else, Matt?
The supervisor's
No,
budget
no,
is no
sit down.
different than this. Neither one of them cut it out. That money's gonna be in there for a decision we're gonna make in April.
You shouldn't have to make a decision at all. He shouldn't have even been talked to about it at all. You know, you guys, you run these campaigns, taxpayer first and everything else. Do the right thing. Do the right thing once, just once by the taxpayers. And you know what, Jody? I will remember in November. Absolutely.
Thank you. Does anybody else wish to be heard tonight?
Good evening, I'm Anthony Coates, and I am in Riverhead. On my way over here, I stopped by a gas station, and I swiped my card. I pressed a few buttons, I filled up, and it spit out a receipt, and I probably threw out that receipt, and now I owe Chase $60. The other day, I took my daughter out for dinner. We shouldn't have had dessert. We did. We didn't need the calories. The meal was expensive. I plunked down my credit card. I owe Visa $28.65. My point is, it's very easy to sign your name to a receipt. That's why they give you chips in Las Vegas. If there were a lot of money in front of you, you might not place your bets. Today, you're going to talk about the budget and adopt a budget, and the theory and the talk becomes reality. I see Meg Ferris in the back of the room. I don't really know her. I know her face. I've seen her in the restaurants around town. I've been in the same room with her. And I take no joy looking her in the eye and saying, I don't believe that this town needs a personnel director. Someone has to make that call. Someone eventually has to say no. Matt Hadoff spoke about it. In a campaign, it's one thing to talk about being conservative, it's another thing to actually do it. And tonight is the night you're judged. This town is small enough, I don't think we need a personnel director. And a good board looks an employee in the eye, as I just did, when they're letting someone go. I believe we don't have the money, and we have to make a tough choice. In many ways, it's easier to cut the youth director position because it's not in the budget right now, and there's no one in the slot, and it can be attritioned out. And no one wants to look our kids in the eyes, and no one wants to tell them that we don't have a program. But we have to be creative and get the job done for our kids. If it means volunteers, it means volunteers. But I would urge you tonight not to fill the position because we don't have the money. I don't want to wave goodbye to anybody. This is a small town and we all know each other here. When someone loses their job, we usually know them by name. I want to see us develop a game plan when an employee leaves that we assist them and we ultimately try to handle and help everyone who's displaced in the budget. But we can't add back positions because we don't have the money. But most of all, what I don't want to see Riverhead do is tell every family across this great town that we've signed a bill on their behalf, and that when that bill comes due, they say to us, they don't have the money. We can be gluttons at the buffet table, and believe me, 96 pounds ago I was. We can be gluttons at the buffet table, and it's easy to say, just one more piece, I'll have another bite. It's easy to add things back to the budget. It's easy to find savings, as this board claims to have done, and then go on and spend that and spend some more. It's hard to turn away employees. It's hard to make cuts. It's tough to say no, but I think tonight you need to say no. Everyone, every poll, every instinct, every survey, every time you shake hands with someone, they say, we all want to see smaller government, but when does it come? When do we actually put the stamp on it to make sure that we deliver smaller government? When does the pain get spread among, Matt spoke about the 13 employees, when does this pain get spread from up to down? Everyone talks about duplication of services. Everybody pays lip service to that, but when do we actually have the rubber meet the road? When do we actually create smaller government? We need a government we can afford. The well is running dry. We are headed for sustained double-digit tax increases once we peel through the surplus we have. We are operating on a credit that we keep drawing down. And it means that we don't have the money. So when you find savings, this isn't like I found $10 in a jacket I haven't worn in a while and I run out and buy a coffee culotta. This is money that is coming in the way of savings where board members have spent their time and patted themselves on the back about savings they found, put them to the bottom line. Take those savings and put them in the budget, because that's the only way this town's going to close the gap. You cannot any longer dither and argue as a board. You need to stop the nonsense and get down to business. You need to bring real revenue to EPCAL and not talk. And you need to do it right now. And you need to move across the aisle and talk to each other and recognize this isn't about egos, it's about issues. You have to do the job that people elected you to do. And what they elected you to do is to bring them smaller government, and if you find savings, take them to the bottom line, because we don't have the money. We can't have hope for the best budgets where you overestimate the amount of revenue and underestimate expenses. We have to work with displaced employees to help them find other jobs. When the surplus is gone, we're looking at $1,000 a year tax increases. And I'm telling you, the taxpayers can take no more. There are houses underwater in this town, and not just from Hurricane Sandy, but financially. And there's another financial storm coming on the horizon. And I need you to challenge the status quo and to do better. Thank you.
Mr. Coates, I'd like to ask you a question. Weren't you lobbying the board for a $100,000 a year job just this past April, asking to create a position for yourself when you were the supervisor's campaign advisor and you were looking for a job? Weren't you asking us to add $100,000 onto the expense of the taxpayers of this town, which I believe, do you own a home in the town of Riverhead?
No, I don't,
Okay,
Councilwoman.
so you wanted to add that onto our backs as taxpayers and homeowners, but now you're here protesting about putting 2 jobs back and sending 2 people out on the street that have jobs and that will no longer have jobs, but you were more concerned about creating a job for yourself.
No, here's what I am concerned about. What I'm concerned about is that this town is a hamster on a treadmill in a race it can never win. What I'm concerned about is that every year you tilt in the margins. What I'm concerned about is the fact of the matter is that you came up with savings. But the savings that you came up with are fairly dubious. And what are you doing with those savings? You're pushing those savings right back into spending more money. So you called yourself a conservative, but the fact of the matter is you didn't conserve anything. The position that you're trying to malign, that I was up for a resolution for, is a position that would create revenue. What you need to do in this town is create revenue. You don't think we need to create revenue?
No, I don't think that position would have created revenue, because it was supposed to be a 1-year position, and we're coming up on that 1 year, and we still have no results at EPCAL. And you've been with the supervisor as a volunteer. It's been stated time and time again without pay, and you were unable to accomplish it. So, and when you speak of duplication of services, there was no duplication of services. Personnel director is a 1-person department. Youth bureau director is a 1-person department. There is no way
Did
that
this
those
town
services-
get by without a
If I can
personnel
finish.
director?
Actually, you're not accurate on both of those.
If I can finish, then when you talk about the budget, and you talk about cutting the budget, and you talk about cutting staff, you were in the supervisor's office behind closed doors working on the budget, and I think that you could have done a lot better with departments that are bloated and have more people than I think are needed.
That's really
However,
also not accurate. It's just,
Well, Councilwoman, I have to say that I'm not overly impressed with your work. You came up with a nominal amount of savings, and now those savings you seek to plow back into spending. I do think at some point, though you smirk at it, I think at some point you need to add revenue to this town. There's
Absolutely.
2 equations to a budget.
and that's why we have made the decision to invest by hiring consultants to subdivide EPCAL, which we had a Plan A and a Plan B that we paid $430,000 for. And only Plan A has been submitted, even though the request of this board was to submit Plan A and Plan B, which was a result of a market study.
That's
It was
also
a
not
result of a
accurate.
VHB. Well, Councilman Wooten spoke with somebody from the DEC today who said that Plan A is the only plan that was submitted.
It does seem to me that you, being a public official, and there'll be plenty of time to argue about this over the next year, I'm sure, but it does seem to me that as a public official, you do have responsibility. As a private citizen, I don't. It seems that if it goes well in Riverhead, you did it, and if it goes poorly in Riverhead, I, the volunteer, didn't do it.
That's not true.
I think, well, that seems to be what you're saying, and that's how I take it.
No, I'm talking about your $100,000 a year job. That you tried
First
to
of all,
create
it was a
yourself.
$65,000 a year job. If you want to call it a $100,000 a year job because you want to add back benefits, that's fine. It was a one-year position. In any event, I'll tell you what, it would have been a good thing to do it, because you know what? We'd be further down the road to actually getting EPCAL online. The most significant piece of economic activity that's taken place at EPCAL in the 4 years you've been town council person is cars parked on the runways right now.
Mr. Coates, you don't know what I've done as far as economic activity at EPCAL. This town council position is supposed to be a part-time job. My other office is in EPCAL, and there have been a lot of people in EPCAL that have needed help, and I have been there 100% for them. And I have done everything in my ability to help every business owner and to help every resident in this town, and feel that I have been a responsible board member. As you announcing your candidacy and coming up here to criticize what I have done, I am not surprised. And it just shows your
Councilwoman,
character.
well, I am a character, you're right. Councilwoman, I read a script. In no time did I mention campaigns. At no time did I mention you.
5 minutes?
The councilwoman is engaging him.
I guess we're saying it'd be nice to stop. At 5 minutes thing, we appreciate it. We all can walk away with a smile. But you're smiling.
I am smiling.
Let's leave it at this.
I will put her down as an undecided for the next election. Thank you.
Sorry. Okay. Would anybody else like to be heard this evening?
Well, mine wasn't made up before, it's made up now.
Are you standing up
CD?
to be heard, sir?
Yes.
On resolutions?
Yes, I'm going to come in under a resolution that
Your
involves...
name and
All right.
affiliation
Good
or
evening,
Hamlet?
guys and gals. My name is Scott Lewis from Southampton, but I'm a contractor in the area.
What resolution are you talking on?
The resolution of that 879 about the entitlement of awards bids for GE Evolved LED series lighting. I happen to be an authority on the subject, so I figured I'd raise your level of consciousness on that subject and the conflicts of interest that may be involved. But I'm also here to promote a resolution to support the public election of trustees of the Long Island Power Authority.
Okay, then we're not going to have that conversation now. That's the conversation for after the resolutions.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah.
Okay, but with regards to this resolution, if you're looking for LIPA rebates, don't hold your breath.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody else wish to be heard on resolutions? All right, I'm going to make just a very brief statement to the board, and the board can vote their conscience. I'm standing by the budget, and I'm doing it for this reason. It's very easy to under-budget the town, but I don't think that's what we should be doing. It's very easy to look at the lowest possible costs that it would be to operate the town and the highest possible revenues and come up with a budget. That's a budget that's destined to fail. I didn't do that in this budget. We averaged out our costs, we averaged out our expenses, and that's how we came up with the budget. There are several things in this sort of omnibus budget, 873, that don't need to be cut, because even if you don't cut them, it would be impossible for anybody to spend them. And the problem for us is that from time to time, things come up during the year, and they have to find the money in the budget. If you don't find the money in the budget, you're going right into reserve funds to take the money. So there's not much of a cushion in here. I don't agree with the $143,000 as we talked about, but there's a little bit of a cushion in here, but it's very small. If we were to take this alone, maybe I could support it. The problem is that adding 872 and the other resolution for the part-time youth bureau, you are adding initially $140,000 to this year's budget, and then next year it'll be $180,000, and it will be $180,000 plus whatever increases there are from next year forever on. The cuts that you've made here do not sustain adding $140,000 or $180,000, folks. They don't. They will maybe, if the costs to run this town come in completely at the bottom line that you're expecting them to come in, we might be able to squeak by adding those staff members back in and staying within the budget. I have my doubts. Over the years that I've been here, we've come in, I believe it's about $100,000. Our revenues and our budgets came in about $100,000 of each other, which is about where you have found the savings. You've basically found that very small area, that the margins that we operate in, because a budget is a planning tool. So it's not an actual track laid out that you can follow, because you don't know when there's going to be a hurricane. You don't know when something's going to happen that you have to find the money, or an air handler goes down. We don't know. So I'm cautioning the board to add back the positions, because it's not sustainable. And the only way it's sustainable is to take out money out of the reserve. And none of these resolutions will affect the tax rate, not one single bit. So, you know, if we're going to be fiscal conservatives, if we're going to be responsible to the citizenry of this town, we need to be seriously talking about reducing or eliminating, well, we're not, Youth Bureau is part of the Recreation Department. It is not a standalone one-person department. It will continue to be part of the Recreation Department, and will continue to function. And when things are better, maybe next year we could think about adding something.
Okay, just comment on that.
Yeah, I'm almost
just that
done.
one thing, Youth Bureau.
The personnel director, the town did not have a personnel director. This is not personal for me. We didn't have one until 2006, 2007. And I'm fairly confident that with the right, putting the right things in place, we can continue without a personnel director. So I caution you, because this 140 in 2014, when I do the budget again, turns out to 180,000 that I have to find, and I'm fairly certain I'm going to be coming back to you with the same exact cuts, and you're not going to be able to take that $100,000 out, because it's already going to be gone. So I'm going to leave it at that.
Okay, from my point of view, I think we worked at a work session, and we went over the numbers that were much higher, and we brought them down, and we created somewhat of a cushion. I think we all understand that. We all sat there and came to agreed upon number, yourself included. But I'd like to point something out to Youth Bureau coordinator. Right now, the duties have been taken over by Ray Coyne and Recreation. All the programs are moving forward. So until next summer, everything's moving. We don't actually need the Youth Bureau director right now. That's why we said, well, let's fund it starting in July 1st. It'll give us 6 months to see how it's working. There may be an opportunity, if it's working well, that we may not put that position back. We have 6 months to see if the Recreation Department can make it work.
And that's
If we feel we need it, like a lot of the community, including Ray Coyne, Director of Recreation, says eventually we need one. So in July, if it happens, or it may not happen, if it happens in July, that Youth Bureau Director will be setting up the programs for fall. Getting trained and being ready for the next rush. Right now, we don't need the Youth Bureau Director, because we didn't have one, it's running. So it's there as it may happen, it may not happen, but if it's proven it's not working, we have to have the monies there to approve it.
You'll always have the monies, because regardless of what you do, the money's coming out of the fund balance. So it's there. So what I would say to you, I would use the same analysis for the personnel department. I know that some board members may feel that it wouldn't function,
right,
but I'd use the same analogy. Let's cut the 2 positions now. At June or July, if it's obvious that we cannot function without these, folks, it doesn't make a difference. It's going to come out of fund balance. It doesn't have to be done now. And the benefit of that is we will have saved $75,000 or $100,000. Right. So I just think that we owe it to the taxpayers to try it.
But to the people involved with the Youth Bureau, it's a good program, and every dollar we invest, we get back $2, $3, or $4 for it. So I think for their peace of mind, for security, we established that it may come back July 1st. That's why I want to establish that now and put it, because once it goes away, it won't be in this budget. It's not going to happen.
Well, I don't think that's true.
But now, once it's been established July 1st, now it's up to us to make the decision again. We're going to move forward or not. So it's saying, do we have enough faith in what we've done that we may not make the right decision?
And what I'm saying to you is, if you're willing to take that leap of faith for the first 6 months, do it on both positions. for the
So that's
first
Youth
6
Bureau,
months.
without getting the other one. That's
Let's
Youth
look at, let's take that leap of faith for 6 months for both positions. We can make a determination in 5 months from now. It won't be a tremendous burden. And take the leap of faith with me on the budget. The taxpayers, they're clamoring for smaller government, and the only way I know how to do it is to cut and consolidate, and that's what we've done.
Well, you also cut the chief code enforcer,
Correct.
and we agree with that.
Okay.
So
Thank you.
if you get a net from 2012 to 13, we have cut also, personnel, and we've made it a half of a possibly position with the Youth Bureau. So the only real disagreement we have is the personnel director.
No, the disagreement is both.
Not
because
disagreement, I mean that position.
The point that I'm making is, following your logic, is let's give it a try. Let's give it a try. We owe it to the taxpayers to give it a try. Cut both positions, look at it in July, and if it comes out that there's not possible that we can function without a youth bureau or a personnel director, then we bring it back. And that is something.
I understand that.
That is a legitimate.
I agree with you on the Youth Bureau position, but I still want to put July 1st. It's either way. It's whether we put it right in.
What is this?
But
What can we leave?
we're commenting on his, we can move
Hey,
forward.
Mark.
But I just have a different spin on the personnel director. I don't think how we could function without.
Jim, after the work session last Thursday, the supervisor asked you to go out and do an investigation and speak to some employees and speak to some of the people. I mean, morale in this town is, I feel, down. Productivity is down. I feel that eliminating a personnel director is only going to make it worse. Jim, what did you find out?
I found out that I'd like to vote on it.
Okay.
Okay,
Good, we
so-
can comment when we
She
vote.
wants to
Sorry.
vote. Let's
Sorry.
vote.
Okay, now.
Don't we have a
wait
CD
minute.
first? CD?
Everybody talks
CD.
about what they like to say something.
Okay.
Okay.
You're the last guy?
I'm the last guy.
Okay. You're the senior councilman.
I am disappointed that we're not going to have a youth bureau director. Youth bureau is run by volunteers. We need a coordinator. And if you start saying, well, in July, we'll see if we need one, and you start looking for a youth bureau director in July, you're not going to hire one until October or November. And then those with the programs will have to go forward. This decision has to be made in
How about
May.
May? Yeah,
In
so we
May.
make it in May.
And we say, okay, let's start looking, because the volunteers need a coordinator. The recreation department has enough work to do, and Ray Coyne does a good job of what he does. The reason why it's out of the recreation department is because nobody wanted to fund directly the youth bureau. And I think the youth in this community, when the budgets are cut, suffer. And just like was said before, for every dollar we spend today, we're returning $20 in 15 or 20 years. Because if we save 2 or 3 children, that's 2 or 3 children that are not going to be in the system, which will cost us a heck of a lot of money.
It's priceless.
So, I was against abolishing it at all.
All right, well, we talked about
Right?
May. You're
Okay.
done, let's go for the votes.
Okay.
I mean,
We have this CD?
you have a CDA resolution?
Couple CDA?
Well, we don't,
Yeah.
there were things.
2 of them.
That CDA
We doing
resolution.
19 first?
No,
CDA
19's been
19 is
changed.
now 893,
So
and
it's
Hayes
not a-
Bills, which is
oh.
893, is
It's not
now
a-
894.
Okay.
So this is way in the back.
Has
okay?
it been amended?
Pay the bills.
I don't know that it ever.
I just didn't.
Did we get a new CDA resolution that it doesn't?
Right here,
Doing this?
yeah.
Doesn't
Right?
look-
No.
And
No one's got that.
Chris, where is Chris? Because we had Tara that tabled CDA resolution, and with Bread and More. Oh, you could just,
It's a table, all right.
does that have to be adopted today?
I think that's a town resolution, the budget.
It is
law.
count- it
That
is
is
count.
true.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
we
okay,
don't-
I'm sorry, you're right. That
This
has
is
to
for
be untabled.
2012.
That has to be untabled and
Right.
adopted?
Yeah, it just adds budget lines for 2012.
Okay.
Okay, I don't know where that, what number is that one?
This is,
839.
839. I'd like to untable and make a
Okay,
motion
let's
to
do that.
untable resolution 839.
That one was amended, Chris, for Bread and More or something? This was something handwritten into mine, which now is,
But there was a question about
Well, soup kitchen supplies is supposed to be bread and more.
recipient was for that line, so we put bread and more. So
It's bread and more.
Just so it was clear, because Maureen's Haven wasn't included in 2012, we didn't want any misunderstanding.
Okay. All right, so,
I'll second.
we're
Motion
gonna
on the floor.
I'll second.
as amended with bread and more for the,
That's
that
correct.
line was. Okay, so moved and seconded to untable.
That's good.
Vote, please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
The resolution is untabled.
CDBG 2012 program budget adoption, with soup kitchen supplies changed to bread and more. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded, vote, please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 872.
Authorizes amendment to preliminary budget for 2013 funding in the general fund. So moved.
And seconded.
Moved and seconded, vote, please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Jody, in response to your question, yes, I had some concerns. I wanted to make sure that town government can operate without a personnel director. And you're right, and we did for many years. Most of my police career, we didn't have one. We had more or less a town manager, who was Jack Hansen at the time, although he was a controller with no CPA license. But anyway, he ran the show. It was on the behest of our new accountant who brought in that said, you know what, there are some services and personnel that should be segregated from accounting because it's conflicting. So you gotta be careful what you wish for. But, so we created that position. And here I find myself standing up for the employees and not standing for the taxpayers. That's pretty good. We took a role reversal here. I am a taxpayer in town. I do own property in the town of Riverhead. And I do know most everybody in Riverhead. I've been here forever. Doesn't mean that doesn't mean anything, really, all by itself. But I can tell you, looking at different townships, looking at Peconic Bay Medical, looking at Math Memorial, where my brother works, there's a lot to be said about human resources and personnel directors. I think in the structure of government, it's difficult to eliminate that position. I really do. I mean, taking personalities out of it, taking conflict, whatever you want to take out, just looking at the structure of government, especially when you have unions and you have CBAs, collective bargaining agreements, and you have all these issues, you really need a personnel director to head that off and to deal with it. So strictly as a structural government structure, I have to support the position of personnel director. So I vote yes.
Dunleavy.
That was a nice speech.
Well, it's true.
I go back to where Councilor Wooten said that it was requested that we have a personnel director for the town of River, because we are not a small town anymore. We are getting larger. And when we put out the request and the advertisement, not one Riverhead resident applied for it. And I'm a person who will hire a Riverhead resident first before we hire anyone else that lives out of town. But on some things, we don't get Riverhead residents to apply for. We can't force people to apply for jobs, so we have to hire from the people who apply for the job when it is advertised. You can go down departments and see that in almost every department that we have. So I think that this town needs a personnel director, and I think that the accounting department is separate, and that's who requested this, that a personnel director be hired to separate it from the accounting department. Except now, some people are locking heads. And I think we can go back and look at what we have, what we want, and see if it's going to work or not work. But I don't want to get rid of a personnel director, so I have to vote yes.
Walter.
No.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 873.
Authorize amendment to preliminary budget for 2013 funding in the general fund. So moved.
And seconded.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
I just want to point out in the second page, when you have the different accounts, et cetera, that the Youth Bureau Director position would be effective July 1st, so that's in here, so this would be a net number. I would vote yes.
Wooten.
You know, I understand that this is, I think I used this analogy last Thursday, and I realize that by putting the personnel director back in, that we're gonna take a little hit in the fund balance, but thank God we got runways that we're making $150,000 a month on. But, I don't like wringing the sponge dry. I just don't like that. I realize that these are all overages and overstatements, and there's some that we saved, like the tax receiver, and that's real money. Some of these, I think is cutting it too close to where, like the supervisor says, there's just no cushion, and I don't like that. I'm gonna vote no.
Dunleavy.
So I concur with Councilman Wooten. I want a youth bureau director all year, not a half a year. And I think that a lot of this stuff is departments need a little cushion in case emergencies come up. And we're taking out that cushion, and we're saying, whatever you have to spend. Now, gasoline goes up, employees go up, everything's going up, and I think this cushion of $91,000 is not gonna reduce the tax rate in the town of Riverhead. All it's gonna do is hinder our departments from trying to do a good job, especially when something comes up. So I too have to vote no.
Walter.
No.
I will clarify that we will definitely look at the youth bureau. That's really hard to
And there's also the cuts for different council people, and the town board coordinator was in there too.
Oh, I see.
The resolution is not adopted.
I didn't see that.
Yeah, that's in there
Yes,
also.
the raises, Jim Wooten, Councilman Gabrielson and myself are not taking the raises that were proposed in the budget.
Well, that's it regardless. I'm taking it anyway.
Resolution 874.
Authorizes amendment to preliminary budget for 2013 funding in the ambulance district. So moved.
And seconded.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 875.
Increased petty cash juvenile aid drill. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 876.
Department of Justice JAB Youth Grant Budget Adjustment. So moved.
And seconded.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 877.
General fund police, that's a budget adoption. So moved.
And seconded.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 878.
Establishes date for the 13th annual Town of Riverhead Bonfire and Holiday Celebration. So moved.
And seconded.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 879.
Rescinds resolution number 591 entitled awards bid for GE Elville LED Series Avery Post Top Streetlights. So move.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 880.
This is a general fund budget adjustment. So moved.
And seconded.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 881.
Police department budget adjustment. So moved.
And seconded.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
I want to test these things on a couple people. Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 882.
Ratifies the promotion of a detective. So moved.
And seconded.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio.
This is a contractual agreement, so I'll vote yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yeah, I think Mark Strumsky's doing a great job. That's why the chief left him where he was until we reach a contractual agreement that we must promote him to
Yep.
detective.
5 years in ranking.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 883.
Accepts the resignation of a part-time police officer. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 884.
Authorizes the town clerk to publish and post a help wanted ad for a part-time kennel attendant. So moved.
And seconded.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 885.
The just metered water reading, Calverton Sewer District. So moved.
And seconded.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio.
This was because of a water leak in the water line, so yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yeah, I guess your average goes up 120,000 a month. Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 886.
Adjusts metered water reading, Calverton Sewer District, Suffolk County Tax Map, District 600, Section 135.2, Block 1, Lot 16. So moved.
And seconded.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 887.
Rejects bids for Calverton Sewer District Extension Number 1, Berman, Calverton Sanitary Pump Station, upgrades, hangar, pump and station bids. So moved.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 888.
This approves extension of security posted by Birchwood at Wading River LLC in connection with the subdivision entitled Birchwood at Wading River, Section 3, Road and Drainage Improvements. So moved.
And seconded.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 889.
Authorize the supervisor to execute a municipal cooperation agreement between the town of Riverhead and the Riverhead Fire District for sand and salt services. So moved.
And seconded.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes. Kind of some verbiage in there, let's get straight down, but yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 890.
Authorizes the supervisor to execute an agreement with Flynn's Stenography and Transcription Services for transcription of town meetings. So moved.
And seconded.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio.
This is a resolution that was put in the pack that was not discussed at work session. It was an afterthought from the town clerk, which she discussed with us. And we need the transcription, so I'll vote yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 891.
Economic Recovery Projects Municipal Sponsor Resolution for PIN 075954, Alternative Transportation Path, amends Town of Riverhead contract to allow New York State DOT to complete construction. So moved.
Wow. I'll second that.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio.
This is something that has been worked on for many, many years, and I have to thank Chris Kempner, the Community Development Agency Director, and Ken Testa of Engineering, who have worked so hard on this. And we were nearing the deadline to where the federal money wouldn't be available if we didn't meet a deadline. So the state of New York stepped in and said, this is such a great project for the town of Riverhead for alternative transportation route from EPCAL all the way through to Jamesport and to the beaches on the North Shore, from the South Shore all the way over to the North Shore. It is a great project, and I'm just thrilled that the New York State DOT is going to be dealing with the federal government and taking the town out of the equation. So I will definitely support this application, yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yeah, this is a great project for bicycles, so they can bike safely on roads. And this one that the town of River did not want to get involved with because of the funds that we would have to put into it. and I think it was a shame that New York State DOT stepped up to the plate and bailed us out. So I have to give them all the kudos, and I vote yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 892.
This mirrors that, right? It's the design phase. Okay, Economic Recovery Projects, municipal sponsor resolution for PIN 075954, alternative transportation path. It amends the town Riverhead contract to design phase only. So moved.
And seconded.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 893.
3. Authorize supervisor to sign amendments to extend the contract with the New York State Affordable Housing Corporation for $200,000 to support the Town of Riverhead Home Improvement Program. So moved.
Second. Sorry.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Resolution 894.
Pays bills. So moved.
And seconded.
Moved and seconded, vote please.
Giglio.
Yes.
Gabrielson.
Yes.
Wooten.
Yes.
Dunleavy.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted.
Okay, we open the board meeting to public comment. We ask you to limit your comment to 5 minutes. Sal Mastropolo.
Just one quick comment. About a month ago, there was an article in the paper about some poor guy that got in 2 different accidents at the same corner in Riverhead within 3 hours with 2 out-of-state plates, okay, unlicensed, uninsured. How many more accidents are going to go on in the town of Riverhead before the town addresses out-of-state plates in this town? Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hadoff.
During the resolutions, Jody, George, and Jim said they weren't taking a salary increase.
That's correct.
Are you taking your annuity?
Is there an increase in that?
There's a cost of living increase, and it's been in that automatic every year since probably
I
'96.
don't really see that, so I'll look.
So you really are taking a salary increase,
No, the salary's
no,
remaining
no.
the same.
On the base salary.
Yep.
but you're still taking a cost of living salary increase, which costs the taxpayers money because it's coming into your annuity. The only difference is you might not put it in your pocket now; you'll put it in your pocket later. But you are getting a salary increase in your annuity.
There's a little increase on that.
No, but when we do the reorganizational meeting, Matt, on January, when we do the reorganizational meeting, we can lower those salaries. And I was told that that was done back in the late 90s with Councilman Stark and Councilman Prusinowski, where their salaries were different from other board members. So we can still keep the same salaries that we were elected to.
I'll look at it, man. If there's a $60 or $62 increase in that, I'll look into that.
I'd also like to mention the 2.8% increases in the supervisor's budget were basically for elected officials, non-uniform, and department heads. That's where those raises came. I think totally those, it could have been like 32 employees would receive about $75,000 worth of increases.
You got to be
I know it was a contract signed, but that's where that comes from, the 2.8.
The bulk of that was a contract approved by the town board, so we didn't
I'm
have
saying
any
elected
choice.
officials, there's people in the offices, whatever.
If you had a zero
That's it was 70.
built into the budget, you would still get cost of living on your annuity.
Yes, that's accurate.
That's accurate.
So you are getting an increase.
Yes.
Okay. I just want to say something. I know it's going around the board here, and I just want to, I'm not giving back my raise, and I'll tell you why. This town, I'm not in a retirement system. If I wasn't a town board member, I'd still be collecting my retirement. So
You don't
this
collect
is
from
not, so I'm not collecting my retirement as a town board member. So that's a good piece of change. Again, they don't have to pay into retirement system for me.
Right.
The 20%, that's $11,000 a year that they're paying for Jody and George into the retirement system. I don't take health insurance. So that's another $20,000 that I'm saving the town because I don't take health insurance. Again, Jody and George,
Well, you get health
we have
insurance
to
through your
pay.
past job, right? Am I correct? You get
So
health insurance
I
through
get
the
health
police?
insurance from the retirement system, which
Right.
I would have got a new member of this board you would have to pay for. You don't have to pay for it for me.
Listen, I didn't want to start a war between the council
but
people. No,
anyway,
I didn't. I just wanted to make it clear that, and I love you guys. No hard feelings.
Madam, not finished talking.
I'm not asking you to justify anything. I wasn't going to mention medical benefits or anything else.
I have to justify.
All right, can we let John finish?
Yes.
Let John finish.
He saves the
Let
town
let
money,
John
no
finish.
doubt.
Also, I don't collect a buyback from the town of $1,600 because I don't take family coverage. I'm entitled to that. So for the last 7 years, I haven't put in for that. Okay? So that's another savings to the town.
Absolutely.
So I'm saving the town approximately about $70,000
You're the
if you
cheapest
add
councilman there
everything
is.
up.
Yep.
All right, perfect.
So I mean, I just
On the
want
same boat.
to, because people are, well, you take family coverage now, so it's 8,000 for you.
Right.
Okay, so you do take a little bit, but you don't take as
Okay,
much.
good. We got
But
that
anyway,
all cleared up,
Good, we're
folks.
good.
We got that
That's
all
it.
cleared up.
But I just wanted
I just wanted
That's
to
all.
make sure that,
Thank you,
know,
Matt.
So
we
the
all are on the same
$1,700
page.
that's my raise that I'm getting, I think I deserve.
that.
We
Absolutely,
appreciate
you
that.
deserve
Huh?
it. You
I don't know
deserve it,
what
John.
All right,
0.9%
sir,
of
step up
4,000
and
is.
let's try to end
All right,
this.
I'll try and bring this to a quick closure. Again, my name is Roger Scott Lewis. I'm here to talk about the resolution to support the public election of trustees of the Long Island Power Authority. And the reason I am privileged to, or I feel that I'm privileged to address you is because I have customers right here in Riverhead that I have helped and we're working on helping lower their electric bill from Jamesport Brewery, Braun Seafood, Crestgood, and various other commercial customers out here on the North Fork. And what I'd like to do is just give you this.
That's fine.
It's a sample resolution.
Is
that
this
you
the same
can-
one Greg Fisher emailed everybody?
It's comparable, yeah. And
Comparable or
The same.
or better?
Do you work with Greg Fisher on this?
well, yeah, let me give you the background, the point, and the benefit, and I'll wrap it right up. Okay, the background is last spring I acted on a law, election law 1-102. I went around, got 600 signatures in Riverhead and in Southampton and all the way up the island to run for the appointed or run for the position of LIPA trustee. And what had happened was the Board of Elections didn't perform their duty and put us on the ballot, even though we filled out the petitions properly and did all the right
But
things.
there is no position of LIPA trustee.
No,
That's it.
you stand corrected. Election
I
law
sit
1-102 is on the books. I'm telling you, it's on the books. We have the feds on it right now. Okay, we're in the
I think
federal
Governor
court.
Cuomo might be on LIPA too.
Well, that's it, and that's just it. It took the grassroots effort. The beauty of our system is that you can do a grassroots effort and essentially override the power of the governor in this case to become a trustee of LIPA.
Why do you think an elected trustee would be better than an appointed trustee?
Just bear with me. I'm just going to give you the background, the point, and the benefit, and then. So I went around, got the 500 signatures. We petitioned the governor, and we petitioned the Board of Elections to put us on the ballots. They consequently didn't do their jobs. So we've been in the courts suing them to find out why, because the way the system's supposed to work is they put you on the ballots and then they have to sue to get you off. That's the way the system's supposed to work. Well, anyway, we believe that this resolution will help circumvent the ongoing litigation that's going on right now, because this lawsuit's on Mr. Ballone's desk, it's on Mr. Magano's desk, it's on the governor's desk, and it is in front of the Court of Appeals the highest court in New York State, and it's also before Judge Siebert in the federal court. And we do have the Department of Justice working with us to make sure that Ms. Siebert does her job. So I also must add that I do teach occasionally at John Jay College of Criminal Justice.
Are you an attorney?
No, I'm not.
You just play one on TV?
This is a pro se litigant, but I'm trying to help the customers lower their electric bills. I've been in a green technology company business since 2008, and all we want to do is help them lower their electric bills. So consequently, the point of the elections it's the American way to solve the crisis at LIPA, our electric power company. The benefit is lower electric bills and jobs that have been taken away from my company. It's also been taken away from the IBEW. And what people don't realize is that LIPA sold our critical infrastructure to the UK. Our telephone company has been sold to the UK. And the MTA tax was implemented by a fellow from the UK. So as one of the first Dutch settlers, my great-great-great-grandparents, history is repeating itself. So I am standing up for us and our rights to have elections of the trustees of LIPA. May we count on your support come the end of this month.
I don't disagree with this, but I don't know that we'd be doing anything now given all those lawsuits out there. I'm of the mind we'd wait to see how the dust settles on the lawsuits.
You mentioned that it's in front of the Court of Appeals. So that means that a lawsuit has been instituted and somebody lost in the lower courts, and you're appealing to the Court of Appeals, you or somebody else's. I don't think we should get involved with something that's already in court and that's being litigated at this time.
Well, do you know what an amicus brief is?
I think we're going to let you guys fight this out, and then I don't think it's a bad idea. I don't know that it's necessarily
I certainly
a
don't
great
think it's a bad
idea.
idea, but there are some assertions made within this resolution that I can't substantiate or know to be true. So, I mean, when you start talking about malfeasance and crimes and pecuniary advantages for themselves, you're making assertions
I'm glad you pointed that out because
well, I didn't mean to point it out.
National Grid wrote $1.4 million worth of checks to criminals. And guess what? I got them prosecuted in the first precinct in Amityville. And guess what they prosecuted the guy that wrote those checks for?
What?
Grand larceny and and 10 counts of identity theft. And you know why the identity theft? Because they stole the identity of a company like mine, and they wrote the checks to those companies. So consequently, everything we're saying there is absolutely, positively the truth, and that's why we're in the Court of Appeals, because lower court judges cannot do Governor Cuomo favors. It's got to be, we got to stick to our Constitution, and that's what I'm here to promote.
I'm just saying, in that resolution, there's stuff that I don't know myself to be true, and I would have to investigate that.
All right, well, we look forward to Act 2 on this.
Yes. Okay, well, I look forward to more support from you because it is your constituents here.
All right, thank you, sir. Steve Romano. How the heck are you doing today, sir?
Good evening. Just some comment.
Could you just state your name?
Steve Romano, Riverhead.
Thank you.
I know a lot of people come up, including myself, and hopefully constructively criticize or recommend or suggest. You guys have a tough job, but what I want to state is you five are the elected people, and until such time you're unelected, I hear a lot of comment from the audience that you should do this or you should do that. You should stay strong to your convictions. My comment would be when you guys disagree, and you had some disagreement tonight, but then you just vote and the majority rules rather than bashing each other's brains and back and forth, because I think you're all good people with passion trying to do the right thing, and there are going to be people in the audience that disagree with you. I would assume if Matt was a councilman representing the union, he'd probably say maybe we should have started with a 4% raise in the budget. We lay nobody off. Obviously, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, the board took the position they were going to try to stay within the New York State 2% property tax increase and then went to 2.8. Within that, you got to cut somewhere. I think there's three things. Either you cut, you get concessions from employees, you find more revenue, which you're working on. So it's easy to criticize from this side, and I know you guys do that, and I know that's part of our job as citizens to come up here and speak to you and say our piece. The other comment I want to make is being a realist, all the programs that the CDA talks about, monies that are funded, sometimes we got to deal with reality, and I think we're delusional. I mean, all of us, we have our heads in the sand. When we talk about grant money, we talk about like it's magic money. The federal government, I think we all know this. We actually, what we're doing is we're going to fund these programs on a federal credit card, okay, that if anyone in this room is under 50, you're the people that are going to get screwed. My children, my grandchildren, same for you guys. It's easy.
Wait a minute, I'm still under 50, Steve.
Okay, so anyone under 50, you're going to be paying for this big time.
So is Councilwoman Giglio.
Yeah, and I know it. So when you guys at least vote for it, you understand that you're going to be paying for it.
Exactly where the money's
Grant money
coming
is
from.
federal money, you're right.
You know,
And you know what, thank you so much for standing up and saying this, and it's incredible how much money is taken from our tax money, and when we buy something, where it goes, and it goes to fund these programs that come out as grant money, and if it doesn't come here, it goes somewhere, so until we stop
that's the problem,
the
yes.
animal.
You can't be the first one. Everybody has to do it together.
Right.
Because otherwise our money will just go to some other town, and I realize it's just a predicament, but I think basically, you came up with what you felt the taxpayers, at least from when you got elected and what your positions were, that it had to be this increase. Now you're going to argue about what position should be cut and what shouldn't, and hopefully you could keep it at that. And then if there's a disagreement, you just have a vote on it. And if you run again and people really don't like what you voted on or did, let them put their name up there. It's a tough, and again, anyone that's run for office knows what I'm talking about. It's a tough haul to do it. But if they're in total disagreement with you, rather than kind of beating your brains in, and I've seen a few people do it, and I wish people would stop that. Come up, say your point. If it's a constructive criticism, that's great, and that's the way it should be. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Does anybody else wish to be heard? I'll entertain a motion
Make a
to
motion,
adjourn.
we close the town board meeting.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you, folks. You're confused. I have to say, these new microphones work really well, and I can shut them off now, and I can turn them